My brother took over my 18th birthday party, and my parents said nothing, even mocked me when I walked out. They acted like they did nothing wrong, but I made them face every lie they'd ever told. I grew up in a house where everything looked fine from the outside. White fences, trimmed lawns, a golden retriever that posed perfectly for Christmas cards. From the sidewalk, we looked like a Hallmark movie. Inside, it was quiet, or too quiet. My parents, Thomas and Melissa Ward, loved to say we were a family of balance. What that really meant was Ryan took the space and I filled the silence. He was 2 years older, captain of the soccer team, the kind of kid people called a natural. There was always noise around him, cheering, laughter, pride. I learned early that my best role was to stay out of frame. When Ryan won his first trophy, it lived on the mantle for years. When I won a spelling bee, Mom said, "That's nice, honey," and placed the ribbon in a drawer so it wouldn't clutter the display. The first time I realized how invisible I'd become was during one of Dad's barbecues. Neighbors filled the yard, beer in hand, everyone retelling Ryan's game-winning goal from the night before. I stood there holding my writing award, waiting for a gap in the conversation that never came. Later, Mom whispered, patting my shoulder. Later never came. That became a theme later. Christmas, birthdays, graduations. Ryan got stories. I got reminders to be grateful. One Christmas morning, Dad handed me a box with a jacket 2 sizes too big. "You're practical," he said. "You don't need much." Ryan got a gaming console. I smiled anyway, because that's what I was supposed to do. By the time I hit high school, my silence had become part of the family routine. Mom used me as an example to her students. The easy kid never complains. I'd sit at the dinner table listening to Ryan talk about college scouts while Dad said, "That's my boy." I just nod. The funny thing about being ignored for so long is that it teaches you to watch everything closely. Observation becomes survival. In my junior year, I won a district short story contest. The school posted a photo of me online. Me holding the certificate, Ryan standing next to me. Mom reposted it but cropped it tighter. Her caption reading, "Proud of our boys." Everyone at church congratulated Ryan. No one noticed my name in the caption. That night I asked, "Dad, do you ever feel like I'm just background?" He didn't even look up from the TV. "You're just quieter, that's all." Someone has to balance things out. Balance, another word for invisible. Then came the spring before I turned 18. Mom asked what I wanted for my birthday. I told her something simple, lights in the backyard, music, a few friends. I just wanted to feel like mine. She smiled like she meant it. "You deserve that. We'll make it special." For weeks I believed her. We planned everything together, the playlist, the cake, even a banner that said, "Happy 18th Ethan." I remember holding that banner in my hands, feeling the weight of it. For once, I thought maybe the world would stop spinning around Ryan long enough for me to exist in the center. I didn't know that banner would never see the light of day. I didn't know the party meant to celebrate me would be the reason I finally left home. Ryan came home 2 weeks before my birthday. He was supposed to be in college, but he dropped out after 1 semester. "College isn't for me," he told everyone. Dad just nodded and said, "At least you figured it out early. No disappointment, no questions." Mom made his favorite dinner that night. Steak, mashed potatoes, and pie. I'd been eating instant noodles all week to save for a new camera. By the next morning, the whole house revolved around him again. His trophies were back on the shelf. His old room reclaimed. Even the dog that used to sleep at my door waited outside his. He had a way of walking in and rearranging gravity. One afternoon, I came home from school to find Mom and Ryan flipping through old photo albums. She laughed at every picture of him. That high, proud laugh that used to sting more than any insult. Ryan looked up. "Remember my 18th birthday? That was wild. We should do it again. Something smaller this time." Mom's eyes lit up. "That's actually a great idea." I froze in the doorway. "What do you mean, do it again?" She turned to me like she'd forgotten. I was there. "We could combine it, sweetheart. Your milestone, his memory lane, a joint celebration." "I'm not turning 18 again," I said quietly. Ryan grinned. "Relax, man. It's just a vibe." Dad chimed in from the couch. "One party's cheaper than 2. Makes sense." That word "since" echoed in my head for days. It always made sense when it benefited Ryan. In the days leading up to the party, everything changed in small, surgical ways. My playlist became too mellow, replaced with his. The lights I picked were too dim, swapped for neon strips that matched his old soccer colors. My guest list shrank because we don't want too many people. Even the lemon cake I love got replaced by a chocolate one, his favorite. I told myself, maybe it didn't matter, maybe sharing wasn't so bad. But when I saw the new banner, something in me cracked. It read in bold gold letters, Ryan's 21st do-over. No mention of me, not even a lazy happy birthday to both. I found Mom setting up the table. "Where's the banner we made?" I asked. She brushed it off. Ryan thought this one looked cleaner, less confusing. I stared at her. "Confusing for who?" She sighed. "Don't make this a big deal, Ethan. Everyone knows it's your birthday too." No, they didn't, and she didn't care enough to notice. The night of the party, the backyard was packed with Ryan's friends. The music was too loud, the air too heavy with smoke and laughter that didn't belong to me. My small group, Noah and two others, stood off to the side watching the chaos unfold. When Ryan climbed onto a chair, drink in hand, the crowd went quiet. "Thanks for coming, everyone," he said. "Turning 21 again feels pretty damn good. Big thanks to my family for making this happen." People cheered. Cameras flashed. He didn't say my name. I waited for him to remember, to add a quick and happy birthday to my brother, but he didn't. The song started. People shouted his name, and that was it. My party, my moment gone again. I turned to Noah. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. Even though I wasn't, I left before the candles were lit. No one noticed me slip out. The street was quiet, just the hum of distant music and the crunch of gravel under my shoes. When I got home, I sat on my bed in the dark, the faint smell of barbecue smoke still clinging to my clothes. 3 days passed. No texts, no calls. Then Noah sent me a screenshot from the family group chat. "Ryan, he ruined my night." And below it, Dad's words, "He'll crawl back when real life hits him." That was the moment something shifted. Not anger, not grief, clarity. If they wanted proof, I'd crawl back. I'd give them the opposite. That night, I opened my laptop and started packing for college housing. The cursor blinked on a blank document, and I typed the first line of a story that would become my weapon, second son. Freedom didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like an empty dorm room with flickering fluorescent lights and the faint smell of cheap detergent. For the first time, silence didn't hurt. It healed. No more walking on eggshells, no more applause for someone else, just me, a twin mattress, and a secondhand laptop. The first few weeks of college, I barely spoke to anyone. I sat in the back of every lecture observing just like I'd done my whole life. But one class changed that introduction to film production. Professor Harris, a man with permanent coffee stains on his shirt, looked at my first short script and said, "You've got an eye for the quiet stuff. That's rare. Don't lose it." That sentence hit harder than any compliment I'd ever gotten. Someone finally saw value in what everyone else ignored. That's where I met Haley Sharp, restless, always scribbling storyboards on napkins. She looked at my script and said, "You write like someone who's been watching their whole life but never invited to talk." I smiled. That's pretty much the biography. Haley dragged me into the film club, a small, chaotic group that met in a classroom full of broken tripods and dreams too big for our budget. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who argued about lighting angles instead of family politics. It felt right. By mid-semester, I was working 2 part-time jobs, tutoring during the week, cafe shifts on weekends to afford camera gear. Every dollar mattered. My parents texted occasionally, "How's school, need anything?" I always replied the same way, "I'm fine." I didn't tell them about the morning shifts that started at 5:30 or the nights I fell asleep editing until my fingers cramped. I was building something slow, quiet, unstoppable. Then out of nowhere, the past found me again. One cold November night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you're better than us?" The tone was unmistakable. "Ryan," I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, you left Mom crying. You embarrassed Dad. You're playing the victim again. I turned off my phone, but the messages kept coming for days. Screenshots of my scholarship announcement. Snide comments about my major film. "Guess you'll be living in a cardboard box soon." He wanted a reaction. I gave him silence. A week later, Noah texted me a screenshot from the family group chat. "Ryan, he acts like he's above us now." "Mom, don't say that." He's just figuring things out. Dad, let him. He'll crawl back when rent hits. That line again. The echo of that same cheap prophecy. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I opened my laptop and wrote one sentence. Sometimes silence is just preparation. From that night on, I started building my story, the one they tried to erase. Scene by scene, memory by memory. Haley caught me in the library one afternoon, hunched over my keyboard. "What are you working on?" "Something personal." She grinned. "Good personal sells." "It's not for selling," I said. "It's for remembering." I called it Second Son. The story followed a boy who'd been invisible his whole life, who finally realized he didn't have to shout to be heard. He just had to make the right people listen. Writing it was like bleeding on purpose. I didn't dramatize the pain, I just told the truth. When I showed it to Professor Harris, he didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "This isn't just a script, Ethan, it's a confession." He encouraged me to submit it for a student fellowship, a program that funded short films written by undergrads. I hesitated. It felt too raw, too close. Haley nudged me. "If it scares you, that means it's honest." So I sent it. And for a few weeks, life went quiet again. Until one morning, an email popped up with the subject line, "Congratulations, Ethan Ward." I'd been selected. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. For a moment, I thought about calling home. Then I remembered the banner, the chat, the silence. Instead, I texted Noah. "Guess who's getting a grant to tell the story they ignored?" He replied with a single emoji. That night, I went for a walk around campus. The air smelled like rain and freedom. I told myself this wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. But deep down, I knew they'd see it as both. Winning that fellowship didn't feel like victory, it felt like pressure. Suddenly, I wasn't just another student, I was the kid with a story. Everyone wanted to read it, dissect it, offer notes. I smiled and nodded. But inside, I was guarding it like something fragile. Second Son wasn't just a script, it was the first thing I'd ever owned that was entirely mine. We started production that spring. Haley co-directed. A few classmates volunteered as crew, and the university gave us just enough money for coffee batteries and duct tape. We filmed in borrowed dorm rooms, public parks, and one old diner that smelled like burnt toast and nostalgia. The story came alive quietly, painfully. The camera lingered on things people usually looked past. A half-eaten cake, a text left on read, an empty chair at a family table. I didn't tell anyone. It was autobiographical. They didn't need to know. The truth was already in every frame. By the time we wrapped, I was running on caffeine and fumes. Haley watched me watching playback one night. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, eyes fixed on the monitor. I think I finally said what I needed to say. When the rough cut was done, we submitted it to a regional student film festival. I didn't expect much. Maybe a screening, maybe a line on my resume. Instead, Second Son made the finals. At the festival, the audience stayed silent through the credits, then erupted into applause. A local producer named Alex Turner approached me afterward. "You've got a quiet kind of fury," he said. "I like that. Ever thought of going bigger?" I didn't answer. I just smiled. The film won Best Short and Best Screenplay. For the first time, people clapped for something that was actually mine. And then, like clockwork, Ryan found it. He didn't text me, he posted. A long rant on Facebook about certain people who exploit family drama for sympathy. It got 10 likes, one of them from Dad. A few days later, Mom called. "Ethan, people are asking questions. They think the movie is about us." I stayed quiet. She sighed. "I just wish you'd warned us. Warned them about what my truth." A week later, Haley texted me a link. Local filmmaker explores family neglect in award-winning short. There was my face, my name, and a still from the movie. A boy half-lit at a birthday party that wasn't his. The article was by a local journalist named Def. He'd written, "Sometimes the quietest stories scream the loudest." The piece got shared in my hometown's community group, the same one where Mom used to post about Ryan's soccer games. Teachers commented, "So proud of Ethan." Neighbors shared it with heart emojis. Melissa Ward, guidance counselor and queen of appearances, suddenly had to explain to her coworkers why her son's film felt so familiar. She texted again, "We need to talk." I didn't respond. That night, Noah sent me another screenshot, this time from the family group chat. Ryan, he's lying about us. It's pathetic. Mom, please just ignore it. Dad, he wanted attention. Now he's got it. That line didn't hurt anymore. It confirmed everything. A few days later, my department chair emailed me. The university is hosting its annual alumni gala in Westwood. She said, "We're screening select student films. Second Son is one of them. We'd like you to introduce it." Westwood, my hometown, their backyard. It was too perfect. I agreed immediately. Then I bought 3 extra tickets under the names Thomas Ward, Melissa Ward, and Ryan Ward. When Haley found out, she stared at me. "You're seriously inviting them?" "Not inviting," I said. "Informing. What if they don't come?" "They will. They can't resist an audience." In the weeks before the gala, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves' anticipation. Every line of the film replayed in my head like a countdown. Every scene I'd lived now had context. The morning of the event, I walked past the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not the quiet kid who waited to be seen, but the man who turned his pain into proof. That night, they would finally see me. Not because I begged for it, because I'd built a screen big enough that they couldn't look away. The Westwood Community Theater still smelled the same old carpet popcorn, a trace of dust and time. I used to sit in those seats during Ryan's soccer banquets, watching him bathe in applause while Mom waved from the front row. Tonight, my name was printed on the program cover. I arrived early to check the sound. Haley adjusted the mic, her hands shaking slightly. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be," I said. Guests began to trickle in, professors, alumni, curious locals. And then they appeared. My mother, Melissa, wearing her counselor's smile like armor. Dad, stiff in his blazer, already scanning the room. Ryan slouched, pretending to be bored. They took their seats in the 5th row center. Perfect view. When the lights dimmed, the room went quiet. I stepped onto the stage, my voice steady through the mic. "Hi, I'm Ethan Ward. I wrote and directed Second Son. It's about silence. What it does to you when love becomes a performance. It's about being present in every family photo, but never actually seen. I hope you find yourself somewhere in it." A beat of silence. Then the projector flickered to life. The first frame filled the room. A backyard bathed in golden light. Laughter echoing. A birthday banner hung crookedly. Ryan's 21st do-over. The camera panned to the edge of the frame where a boy sat alone with a paper plate and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. In the 5th row, I saw Mom straighten. Dad's jaw clenched. Ryan shifted, muttering something under his breath. The scenes unfolded, the quiet dinners. The father saying, "You're too sensitive." The brother stealing the spotlight again and again, and then the text messages blurred but legible enough. "He ruined my night. He'll crawl back when real life hits him." The audience gasped softly. Melissa's hand flew to her mouth. Thomas leaned forward, frozen. Ryan's face turned red. The film ended with a single shot of boy at his own birthday party, surrounded by people laughing for someone else. He looked at the camera and said, "They didn't forget, they just didn't care." Fade to black, no music, no fade out, just silence. And then applause. Slow at first, then stronger, until the whole room rose. I stood at the backhands in my pockets, watching my parents stand because everyone else did. When it quieted, I stepped forward again. "Thank you for listening," I said into the mic. For a long time, I thought maybe what I remembered didn't matter, but silence only feels safe until someone turns on the lights. Applause again, louder, braver. Outside, under the marquee, with my name glowing faintly above the doors, I finally exhaled. The night air was cool, sharp with spring. I almost didn't notice Mom walking toward me until I heard my name. "Ethan." Her voice trembled, not angry but uncertain. "That was a lot," she said softly. I didn't reply. "You could have talked to us," she whispered. "We would have listened." I looked at her. "I did. You called it drama." Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she didn't have a counselor's answer. "Is that really how you remember it?" "Yes," I said quietly. "And the sad part is, you don't." She blinked, eyes glassy. "We love you, Ethan." "Maybe, but love without effort is just decoration." Dad joined her, arms crossed. He didn't say a word, just stared like I was some stranger he couldn't place. Then Ryan stepped out from the shadows, face tight, voice sharp. "You happy now? You made us look like monsters." "I didn't make you anything," I said. "I just pressed play." He scoffed. "All this to prove you're better than me." I almost laughed. "No. All this to prove I existed." For a second, no one spoke. The theater lights glowed behind them, outlining 3 silhouettes, frozen, small, ordinary. I turned toward the street, the sound of my name still echoing faintly from inside. For years, I'd been the background of their story. Now they were just extras in mine. The next morning, my inbox was full. Messages from strangers, classmates, even teachers I barely knew. "Your film made me cry. I showed it to my son. Thank you for saying what we couldn't." Each message felt like a small exhale after years of holding my breath. Back in Westwood, silence cracked in a different way. Noah texted first. "Your mom took a leave from school." People started asking how a guidance counselor missed what was happening in her own house. Another message followed. "Ryan's ranting online again, calling you a liar with a camera. It's not going viral the way he hoped." I smiled for once. His noise didn't reach me. A week later, I got an email from Alex Turner, the producer from the festival. "Saw the screening, heard the buzz. You've got a real voice. Want to work on something bigger?" That line, "a real voice," hit deeper than he knew. For most of my life, my voice was treated like background noise. Now it was the soundtrack. Haley and I spent the summer writing new scripts. I kept working part-time editing other people's stories while building my own. The money was small, but the control was everything. For the first time, no one could twist my narrative, crop my photo, or speak over my line. I didn't block my family. I didn't need to. The silence between us spoke loud enough. Sometimes late at night in my small apartment, I'd replay a frame from Second Son, the candle burning alone at the edge of the table. That image stayed with me. Now, every year on my birthday, I light a single candle, no cake, no party, just one flame. Because sometimes the smallest light is enough to burn down an entire false story. They built their world around Ryan, but I wrote the ending. And this time, the credits roll my name. If you've ever sat at a table where your name didn't make it onto the cake, you know what that kind of silence feels like. But here's the thing. Silence can be rewritten. You can turn every ignored word, every forgotten moment into something that finally speaks for you. Before you go, tell me where you're watching from and hit like and subscribe if you've ever been the outsider in your own family. Because trust me, this story isn't just mine.